Hi, this is Tony Kent, and this is another episode of Tony Kent Writes and Cross-Examines. And before we started recording, I was just talking to today's guest, Sid Moore, who lives in Southend, or just outside Southend, in the nicer part, Leigh-on-Sea, which I think she'll be very keen on me telling you that. But I've actually spent a lot of time in Southend, where I learned to cross-examine. So it's very appropriate that I display that complete lack of skill today with somebody who is just down the road from the place where I'm supposed to have learned how to do that. So Sid, how are you?
Yeah, good. Enjoying the sunshine, and obviously Southend is a great place to be when the sun is out.
It is.
So I've been doing lots of swimming, and I'm going for a walk later on the route to the Ray, which is like a tributary of the Thames, and it's deep water, so it doesn't ever go out. But yeah, and I'm really glad you can't see my sunburnt nose. It's completely peeling at the moment.
Really? I'm trying to look closer now, but it's not helpful. If I move closer, you move back. So, Sid, you are the author. I should have said this when I was introducing you, but you are the author of, amongst other things, the Essex Witch Museum Mystery Series, which began in 2017.
Yeah.
And that began with Strange Magic. And am I right in thinking that this is a sort of a thriller mystery series, but with an element of local Essex mythology involved?
Yeah, you got it in one. Well done.
It's like an elevator pitch, isn't it, for someone else's books? So tell me a bit about that. Tell us where that came from.
Yeah. So my first book was The Drowning Pool, which was about in Leigh-on-Sea. There is a local legend about a woman called Sarah Moore. And I was very intrigued by her, a bit narcissistically, really, because we both got the same surname, related. So I found out about her, and she was known to be a sea witch locally, and she was meant to have caused the great storm of the estuary, which is sort of we all know about here. So I sort of investigated her, and I wrote about really the story, what happened to her in the Drowning Pool. And while I was researching, so when I started researching Sarah Moore, first of all, I did this really incredibly academic thing, and I put Essex witches into Google, right? And I didn't find anything out about Sarah Moore, but I did some really shocking statistics, actually, about the number of women and men and children who were executed or who died at the hands of witch hunters in Essex. And the statistic which really shocked me was that between 1560 and 1680 in Hertford, Surrey and Sussex, there was a total of 185 indictments for witchcraft. But in Essex, for the same years, time period, there was 503.
Right.
Significantly a lot more. And as I sort of dug deeper into it, I found out about Matthew Hopkins, who you may or may not have heard of. He was the Witchfinder General. Yeah, so there was a really sort of great Hammer horror. It wasn't a Hammer horror, but it was like Hammer horror. It was Vincent Price. Yeah. It was quite disturbing, actually, when you watch it. He's not very hammy, which is unusual. But anyway, so Matthew Hopkins sort of basically started his campaign in Essex, and it was from 1645 to 1647. And during that time, it's estimated that he killed upwards of 350 people. And this was
every second day.
Yeah. He was a really nasty piece of work, because he got paid per witch that he found. So he was
that's a clever way of doing it, isn't it?
Yeah, paid to be a serial killer, basically.
Yeah.
And actually, when he died, he sort of came back in 1647 to the place where he started, which was Manningtree, which is up the road. And he's meant to have died. There's sort of people not sure whether he did. There's lots of kind of conspiracy theories out about it. But he was probably, when he died, if he did die then, he was probably 26 or 27. years old as well. So extraordinary. So I wrote
incredible when you
about,
think about that historically, isn't it? Because there are all of these people who did all of these things, and yet people generally died fairly young. And so you don't really realise quite how young the people you're reading about were. I had no idea he was in his 20s.
No, well, you know, Vincent Price in that classic is late 40s, I think. You kind of think that as well, that someone who managed to do all of this, who managed to get whole communities behind him, persecuting their own people, you just expect them to be older, I think. But he was young, and anyway, so I was really staggered by that. And you know, also the numbers in Essex I found really, really shocking. Because I hadn't really heard about it before, so I've had a vague idea, but I had no real understanding of just how wide it was, so, and how widespread in Essex. But of course, as I looked in further, I just found it's like every town, every village in Essex had women and men who were lost to the witch hunts. And at one point, Essex was called Witch County. And I was really shocked because I'd heard about Pendle and the Pendle witches, where there were 12 poor souls lost their lives. And I'd heard about Salem, where there was 19, I think over 19 months, but in Chelmsford in July 1645, there were 29 women who were tried and 19 executed in just one day. So I kind of thought, well, this has really got to be looked into. So I looked into it and I wrote Witch Hunt. And then I thought, because I'm quite a proactive person, and
I understand that,
and I just thought, you know what, there needs to be some kind of like monument or exhibition about this. So I went to the council and I took to the curator and I said, look, this is all going on. I think that there should be something to mark this. And also because the witch hunts were about superstition and othering and bullying and fear and hysteria and intolerance. So there were, you know, unfortunately, we haven't grown out of this as a human race.
We just aim it slightly differently.
Exactly, yeah. So there's still lots of lessons to be learned from it. So anyhow, I said to the curator, we were going to have a big new museum in Southend at the time. They were developing it. And I said, I think, you know, can we do something about the witch hunts? And they said, we don't think there's any artifacts. Go and have a look for them. So I did. I spent a few years going around to different museums, talking to different people and different places, and find kind of were around that we could use in an exhibition, and going to other exhibitions where you could see how people had maybe used panels and technology when they didn't have authentic facts. And so then I put in a proposal to the Arts Council, got it all sort of laid out, and I asked them for more research and development money to actually investigate whether we could borrow or buy different things for this exhibition. And they said no. So they said there wasn't enough demand for it. So I was a bit like, so then I thought, you know what, sod it, I'm actually just going to make this exhibition happen anyway. So I created a fictional Essex Witch Museum. That's what I did. I just thought, sod it, I'm doing it. I'm going to create this. I'm just going to make it.
So does this exist physically somewhere?
No. Well, here.
Right, okay. And you created this museum that doesn't exist in reality, but exists in the world that you write.
Yeah, that's true.
And everything has grown from there.
Yeah. So I literally have got four floor plans. Excuse me, I'll start that again, shall I? Lockdown lunacy. I've got floor plans and I've got exhibition cases and see what artifacts are going where, what sections there are. I've also talked quite frequently to the Museum of Witchcraft and Magic in Boscastle, who were really great and really helpful. And at one point I was trying to do a pop-up museum, a pop-up Essex Witch Museum, and that's actually still an idea that might happen in the future at some point when we get out of lockdown. But so anyhow, I had this museum and I just thought, right, okay, this would be a fantastic vehicle for me to explore all of these different witch myths. And also I was really wanted to sort of move more into the kind of crime and thrillery side of things. So they are crime stroke mystery stroke thriller books. It's just like you said, you were so good with that, Tony. Well done. I might have to use it. But they are like thrillers and mysteries with a local twist. And, of course, lashings of feminism as well.
That's another big passion of yours, isn't it? Feminism. I think we were talking initially, well, not initially, before we came on, about a game that I think you co-invented, which is, I don't understand it. You can tell us all about it. But it is a feminist game, isn't it? It's Super Strumps.
Yeah. Yeah, Super Strumps. There we go.
And is this sort of a twist on Top Trumps?
Yes, it is. Well done. You're on fire.
I don't know how Top Trumps work, but I know they look a bit like that.
Yeah. So, well done. They do. So these are kind of like, basically, I worked with a local artist, Heidi Wigmore. And we started off with, I'm sort of like really interested in the stereotype of the Essex girl. I mean, I'm really interested in challenging it all the time. And actually, just before lockdown, we've got an exhibition going on at the Beecroft Beecroft Gallery in town. Yeah. And we had a women's march, and we had a whole day of a whole festival, and which was really fantastic. And then I got ill, and then we had lockdown. So it's sort of all suspended again. But the Essex girl, also, I'm really interested. I don't know if you can see that.
Go this. Oh, there we are. Yep. Okay. Jersey girl, Valley girl. Yeah. Yeah.
So the Essex girl is really interesting to me as well, because I do feel that there is possibly a link between the witches and Essex girl, because you look at the characteristics of the women who were tried. And they were mostly, low of social class and status. They were also described as loose. The word at the time was loose, which meant they went under the protection or the control or the shelter of a man. And also, when they were taken to court, and you might know this, Tony, so at that time, women weren't allowed to speak in court. They had to have a man speak for them. So they were legally dumb. So then if you just think about that, and you think about low social class, loose and dumb, and you think about the contemporary stereotype, and I just wondered if, like, the Essex girl stereotype has somehow grown out of this.
Yeah, the negativity that's focused in that direction has kind of been tilted
about the women of Essex. Yeah, so the women of Essex were seen to have some kind of taint upon them, and it was because of the witch trials.
Because so many, I mean, they can't have that many being killed on a daily basis without people elsewhere in the country hearing about it.
Oh, yeah, and of course it was like really sensational. So there were pamphlets that were made at the time, and this was like the Sun and the Mirror. Really, people were selling them, and people wanted sensational headlines. And it was also at the time it was the Civil War as well. So most of the men in the villages were off either fighting for the king or for Parliament. So again, Hopkins really entrepreneurially just whizzed in and took advantage of the situation perfectly. But anyway, so the Essex Strumps, we basically came up with all of these stereotypes for women. Like the battle axe, which is a bit Nora Batty, and the Essex girl was what started it, because we just said, actually, if you get beyond the 80s kind of like moral knee jerk, there's a lot of things that are brilliant about the Essex girl. She's bold, she's feisty, she's confident, she works hard for a living, she plays hard, just like the boys. So what? She's sexually autonomous, and in these days of grooming and cyber whatever, that's a pretty good thing. And we just, you needed, I don't think you can ever get your message across if you're a bit ranty. I know I'm sounding a bit ranty at the moment.
You're not.
Generally, am I not? Okay, well, good. Well, thanks. Generally, I think you need to have a sense of humour about what you're saying. And so we kind of gave every stereotype the magical quality. So, for instance, the career woman, the implication of the career, which calls someone a career woman, it usually abandoning her family and focusing on her career. or she hasn't got a social life, so she has to, you know, absorb herself or like just completely immerse herself in her career because she's lonely. And so she, you know, her special power is she can penetrate glass ceilings. And the Essex girl's special power, for instance, is that she's invulnerable to cold.
That's it. Also could be a Newcastle girl.
Yeah, well, exactly. She's got lots of cousins everywhere. You know, the Scouse girl, the Valley girl. In America, she's got the Jersey girl. And interestingly, Jersey is outside of London, outside of New York, as Essex is outside of London. And they're, you know, the scapegoat, the kind of projections onto the Jersey girl, very similar to the Essex girl. So it's a really, I find it really fascinating. I'm sure lots of people
it's
don't,
interesting.
but
It is interesting, so much so that I've taken my eye off the time, and I've just realised we're running over. So I'm going to have to be very quick to wrap up and say thank you very much. It's been fascinating talking to you. All great subjects to listen to, and everyone get out and buy the books because you've got to keep buying them for us to keep writing them. Right. Okay, thanks very much, Sid. Take care.
Bye, Tony.